Hello, my name is Kendall. Welcome back to another video. And if you're new here, hello, my name is Kendall. Today, I will be talking about the New Jersey Devil. This very creepy and borderline satanic looking creature was first spotted in 1812. Some legends even say that it was dated back before that. This is definitely on the list for one of the oldest legends that I have talked about on this channel. This legend has a very interesting backstory, one that I will say I have rarely seen anything like it. He wasn't man-made, he wasn't thought up, but rather he is actually originated from being a cursed child. In 1735, there was a woman named Miss Lead. She was giving birth and she was no stranger to this, okay? This was her 13th child. And in the midst of her contractions and giving birth and all this pain, she said something that she would later regret. She screamed out, "Let this child be a devil." Now, I'm not completely sure what she was thinking at the time when she said that. Very strange thing to say in the middle of giving birth. But after she did deliver the child, the midwife took the baby and handed it to her. And initially she was filled with joy. She was happy to see her healthy, beautiful baby boy. And then things started going wrong. Her child started to change. Her words cursed the very newborn she had just birthed. This is how it looked. Its head began to lengthen, looking that like a horse or something like a bat as well. It started developing extremely long, dark wings, that of a bat. Horns grew on top of its head as it developed razor-sharp claws. It continued growing up to 6 to 10 feet. And one of the most disturbing things about this creature is its scream. The description varies at time to time, but in my opinion, it sounds like a beast mixed with a terrorized child. After it had developed this very strange and new and dark appearance, it flew out the chimney and flew into the woods. And specifically the area that was most spotted was New Jersey Pine Barrens, a place that most people wouldn't dare to step into. There have been thousands of reports over a span of a couple hundred years talking about how this creature has terrorized so many. It often targets livestock, but also people at the same time. Now that you have an idea and a backstory of this creature, I will be telling you a story about how one young man's desire to have fame led him into a terrible situation and a regretful situation with the New Jersey Devil. Shooting off his mouth had kept Will in constant trouble growing up, but on his social media, it worked to his advantage most of the time. That was until one brilliant idea led him to the most terrifying encounter of his life. Will wanted to grow his fan base because he needed more followers if he wanted to make the big bucks. With the help of two of his best friends, Brad and Dennis, he came up with an idea they thought would work. He changed his channel name from Will Thrill to Will or Will Not. He then recorded a video and told his fans to dare him to do crazy things. Brad and Dennis would choose one dare each week, and Will would either accept the dare or be offered an alternative that was equally distasteful or terrifying. Now, Will had only lived in Chatsworth, New Jersey for the past year, but he had heard the Jersey Devil story and quite frankly, they freaked him out. So when a follower with the username Bad Devil dared him to spend a night in the Pine Barrens, he wanted to refuse the dare, but he couldn't. This was just what his channel needed. Brad and Dennis were very supportive, of course, and promised to be with him every step of the way. This was a relief to Will. He was afraid he could never do this alone. A week later, Will found himself deep in the Warden State Forest with his ragtag film crew. Even though they planned to fake the whole thing, Will was constantly on edge. He didn't believe in the monster, but the idea of them petrified him. That night, they were sitting around the fire discussing their plans when the forest around them fell silent. "Hey, has it been this quiet all night? Or am I just spooking myself?" Will asked Brad. "Dude, I don't think so, but I wasn't really paying attention until now." Brad seemed genuinely nervous. Dennis had been tending to the campfire, and just as he settled back into his spot across from Will, the silence around them was shattered by the sound of timbers crashing in the forest. The boys sat upright, their eyes like saucers. "You guys better not be trying to scare me," Will warned in a hoarse whisper. Neither Brad nor Dennis replied. They were busy looking around the campsite at the tree line. Another crash came from the opposite side of the camp, closer than the one before. This brought the boys to their feet. They didn't even realize that they had huddled in with their backs against each other, each facing a different area of the forest. Brad cursed in pain as the fire licked his leg. He had gone too close without even realizing it. When he jumped, Will and Dennis jumped too, taking their focus away from the forest until a screech that vibrated their eardrums sent them into a total panic mode. The three large teenage boys ran to the tent, almost tumbling over one another to get in. Regardless of a lot of cursing and shoving, they were finally all inside. Will was sure that if he hadn't been so scared, he would have laughed, because they must have looked so much like the Three Stooges. After securing the tent's opening, they lay there for what seemed like ages, not speaking. The night was quiet except for their heavy breathing. Will was starting to calm down and was about to speak when a flapping sound again broke the silence. The boys froze and listened as it grew closer. The tent began to shake. Will thought he heard Dennis whispering. The flapping grew closer, and suddenly there was a tearing sound from above. A huge opening appeared as the top of the tent began to gape open. Then the quiet engulfed them again. The tent went still, and slowly they began to breathe. They were a tangle of limbs, hugging each other so tight it was hard to tell where one boy began and the other ended. The quiet was slowly replaced by the sound of the breeze shaking the rip in the tent, and it was gradually joined by the sounds of crickets. Sometime later, probably exhausted from fear, the boys fell asleep. The sun filtering into Will's eyes stirred him from his sleep. He pried Dennis' arms from around his back and shoved him aside. Brad was already awake, but just lying there, staring at the large tear that had once been the roof of their tent. Waking Dennis, they cautiously exited the tent and searched the area as they gathered their things to leave. Everything was scattered all around, but nothing was missing. The boys went home. They watched the video they made and began to edit. But to their surprise, something amazing had happened. That night, when they dove into the tent, someone must have kicked the camera, because it had come on and they had got some good footage of a large winged creature shredding their tent. The Jersey Devil episode went viral. Going out there to film some random video as a deer is a very terrible idea, but on the bright side, their video did go viral. That concludes today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed, and if you do, please consider subscribing. Take care of yourself and have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!